Hey, it's Robert Fifth, and one of the great things I love about the way music is being distributed these days is it seems like a lot of the record labels have finally figured out that all this stuff that's been sitting in vaults for years and years and years, people might actually want to hear it. Hey, people might actually want to pay to listen to that stuff. So some of it's actually getting released these days. Elvis Presley's rare recordings have been taken care of by a subsidiary label called Follow That Dream, which has been releasing a lot of rare outtake kind of soundtrack stuff and live stuff over the last few years. A couple of years ago when I went to Graceland, I noticed that Follow That Dream is now releasing full, unedited, unremixed soundboard recordings from Elvis Presley concerts that have never been released before. And I love hearing concerts like that. I'm not such a big fan of the big produced concert stuff where, it's got the overdubs and all that. I love hearing concerts. It's just like you're sitting there. This is what you would hear if you were at the concert. And I've lived in the St. Louis area pretty much my entire life. So I've been waiting, and hopefully they'll release at one point a St. Louis concert from Elvis Presley, since I've never heard one before. He played St. Louis 5 times at the Kiel Auditorium, all 5 times. Once in 1957, once in 58, and then doing concert tours more like what we think of them today. He played in 1970, 1973, and 1976. The March 1976 show was just released by Follow That Dream. It's a double disc set. You have the St. Louis show, which is really short, along with the Spokane show from the following tour. At the St. Louis concert, I was so ready to hear this. What's Elvis Presley sound like in pretty much my hometown? And then come to find out, it's one of the worst Elvis Presley concerts ever, according to a bulk of the fans who blog about this type of thing. So right off the bat, I'm listening to this concert. I'm noticing, it's not the best Elvis concert I've ever heard. Elvis Presley himself says about the Kiel Auditorium.
It's the funny thing about Kiel Auditorium. The sound on the stage is weird. We can't hear ourselves up here at all. It's very difficult to hear.
So if you can't hear yourself, you're probably not going to be putting on the best show. But how does he feel about St. Louis? Well, apparently some of the St. Louisans in the audience got a little rowdy. At one point, Elvis is doing his song, Marty Robbins' song, You Gave Me a Mountain, which is really kind of a Vegas-y kind of show song, a big orchestra type thing, big dramatic song. And he does it throughout his whole concert repertoire for years and years. He does it in St. Louis, and some woman decides to jump up on stage and attack him so much that he bashed the microphone into his own teeth, which sounds like this. Yeah, welcome to St. Louis, Elvis Presley. So, how do you feel about the people of St. Louis?
What's the matter with you folks?
Yes. That is actually what he said to the audience after the song was over. Let's hear that one more time.
What's the matter with you folks? Okay. What's up next?
That is the king of rock and roll and his opinion on St. Louis. Now, this is I'm not an Elvis expert. I don't know everything there is to know about Elvis Presley. I grew up listening to his music. I've got, 50 of his albums or whatever, I've got all his music and whatever, but I don't spend a lot of time reading about him as a person and his, life or whatever. Seen all his movies, but maybe an Elvis expert out there can shed some more light. What I've shared with you so far is just what was on the sound recording of the concert. So it's real, it's there. Now, I've also read some things. The official ElvisFanClub.com page says that according to this author of this book, after the concert, Elvis Presley asked Colonel Tom Parker to never book him in St. Louis again. So again, that's according to this guy that wrote this book. I don't know about that, but I do know what I heard on the concert, and you've got Elvis Presley saying that he can't hear himself, and then you've got him one more time saying to the audience,
"What's the matter with you folks?"
Which would make a great title if this was ever released as just a single disc. Like, what's the matter with you people? Elvis live in St. Louis, 76. So hopefully one day they'll release the 1970 concert or maybe the 1973 concert. Hopefully it's a little bit better. And we can get some audio archive redemption for Elvis Presley in St. Louis. But for right now, this is what we have. And what we have is the final show of a tour. This should have been a big, huge go out with a bang show, and instead it's going out with like not really a whimper, but almost like a gruff. You know, he sounds very gruff through the whole thing. He does, his big song at the time is called Hurt. Every other concert, he did the song awesome, blew everybody away, comes back, does an encore of the song. St. Louis, no encore. Let's just get to the next song. And there's other instances like that too, where things were longer, more involved, more energetic earlier on in the tour. But when he comes to St. Louis, it sounds just like, you know what? Let's get this show over with. Burning Love. Obviously a huge Elvis Presley song that he did in other, again, at other concerts on the tour. St. Louis doesn't even bother with it. And the other versions of the songs he does, his older songs, he blows right through them usually, but in St. Louis, he just, I mean, it's like, oh, you know, whatever, and just on to the next. You ain't nothing but a hound dog crying all the time, you ain't nothing but a hound dog, don't we crew? You know, it's like, boom. So Elvis Presley, unfortunately, probably not having the highest opinion of St. Louis, and since he passed away in August of 1977, we're probably not going to be able to do anything to change that. But like I said, hopefully, well, someday, Follow That Dream will release the 1970 or the 1973 concert, and we can maybe hear something a little bit better from Elvis Presley. So, again, Elvis experts, am I wrong about this? Do you have more information that says, oh, well, no, actually, Elvis Presley really loved the St. Louis, especially the zoo or whatever? Yeah, let me know in the comments section. What am I wrong? Am I right? Or you know, does he feel this way about other cities as well? It's just great to get some insight. You know, I've been looking forward to hearing an Elvis, or I love any concerts really that were in St. Louis from the 70s and 80s. I always like to see those footage or hear those concerts. But Elvis Presley, St. Louis, you can't win them all. Thanks again for watching. I'm Robert Fithman.